My room is so small that I just moved my light and knocked my camera to the ground with excessive force. So hopefully my camera is okay. You okay, baby? Because that was like a really hard hit. This room is cool looking and better than the rest of my house for filming in, but it's tiny. So that's unfortunate. Anyway, I'm Julian Greystoke, and I didn't feel like putting on eye makeup today. So deal with it. Today, because it is Pride Month, I wanted to talk to you all about asexuality! Yay! And if you've been around here for a while, you already know that not only am I asexual, but I already have several videos about it here on this channel, including an earlier version of this video. So this is going to be kind of like my updated, maybe more in-depth version, because we want to have asexuals included in our stories. Trust me, we do. At least if you're watching this video, I assume you're at least open to the idea. So first of all, of course, what is an asexual? In this context, being asexual means one thing and one thing only. An asexual person does not experience sexual attraction to anyone at all. That's it. It's that simple. But there's a lot more to it. It's deceptively simple. So let's get into writing our asexual characters. Hey guys, this is the world's fastest reminder that you can support me on Patreon and see all kinds of exclusive videos like these ones. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Now that we've defined asexual, you may find that I make some generalizations within this video. I do apologize for that, but we are going to go fairly in depth about the different, because it's a spectrum. Everything is a spectrum. The different sort of types of asexual that you might find, and as well as hopefully how to illustrate them on the page. I wrote this down in my notebook in what I hope is an order that makes sense, but we'll see. We will see. The first thing to ask yourself when you are writing an asexual character is, are they also aromantic? Meaning, do they have desire for a romantic relationship? Because fun fact, asexuals are not all aromantic, and vice versa. I, for example, am an asexual, but I am not aromantic, which means that while I don't experience sexual attraction, I do enjoy romantic things such as being married, having a romantic relationship with my husband, kissing, holding hands, and things that are generally associated with romance. It can be very difficult when you're writing because many people make the generalization that asexuals don't want romantic relationships at all. So getting that across when you're writing can be kind of challenging. And sometimes it is easier to make a character who's asexual and aromantic. But if at all possible, make it clear that those two are not the same thing. Now it can be challenging, again, because let's say you're writing a fantasy and they don't have words for any of this stuff. It's challenging to say, yeah, they're this but not this, or they're this but it's not the same as that. And unfortunately, there's not a great way to counter that issue, except for to be very knowledgeable about it yourself and being very clear about what your character thinks and feels about all of it. Knowing your characters as well as you know yourself is probably going to be one of the most important things to do when writing, well, any character, but when you're writing an asexual, especially if you yourself are not one. Let's talk about different kinds of attraction. Did you know that there are many different kinds of attraction besides sexual attraction? And did you know that many asexuals feel these other types of attraction without feeling sexual attraction? All of these attractions that I'm about to list for you can be completely separated from sexual attraction. This might surprise some of you. Let's go through the list. We have aesthetic attraction. I find that person very nice to look at, and I'd like to continue looking at them for as long as possible. Intellectual attraction. I am very attracted to that person's mind. I want to have lots of conversations with them and talk about deep subjects. Emotional attraction. This person makes me feel very safe emotionally, and like we can have conversations about our thoughts and feelings without me feeling unsafe. I want to connect with them on an emotional level. Romantic. I want to kiss that person, maybe hold hands, maybe someday in the future we could get married. I want them to be my significant other. Physical. And this one is often very difficult for people to separate from sexual attraction. This person makes me feel very comfortable and safe physically. I'm attracted to being physical with them. I want to hold their hand. I want to sit in their lap. I want to cuddle with them. Now, I know a lot of people might have a hard time separating any of these from sexual attraction, but they can and are often separate for many people. Like I, for example, experience all of these attractions except sexual. Speaking of sexual, let's talk about asexuals and their libidos, because this is something people often get wrong. Just because you're asexual doesn't mean you have no libido at all. Now, again, it's a huge spectrum. So some asexuals are what we call sex repulsed, which means they have no interest in sex. Many find sex disgusting and are not interested in it at all. Sex indifferent, which means, yeah, you know, if my partner wanted to have sex, I'd do it with them. Sex positive. I enjoy sex. I just don't find people sexually attractive. The act is fun, and I might even seek it out occasionally, but not because I think you're sexy. Does that make sense? It's an easy trap to fall into to think that all asexuals are sex repulsed. And it's also an easy and damaging thing to accidentally classify someone as asexual because they are sex repulsed. Did you know that you can be sex repulsed and not asexual? Many people who have experienced trauma can become sex repulsed, usually for a limited amount of time, sometimes years, but they often can recover from it. So those people are not asexual. Not only is labeling them as asexual against their will damaging to them because they don't want that, but it's also damaging to the asexual community because then it's thought that asexuals only happen when there is some trauma involved to make us that way, which is completely untrue. Now, if something has happened to you and you have become sex repulsed and you feel that you would be most comfortable identifying as asexual, then that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and do that. I'm just making it clear that if you're writing a character who's had trauma and is sex repulsed because of that trauma, that does not make them an asexual. Asexuals, just like any other sexuality, we're born that way, baby. Now, how are we going to express asexuality on the page? It may seem like a real challenge because it's pretty easy to express all of the other kinds. Have them fall in love and have sex, and that's a pretty big part of most stories, but it doesn't have to be. One of the easiest ways to express asexuality on the page is to name it. If you're writing a book that is set in a time period where we have the vocabulary for asexuality and all of the different sexualities, call it what it is. It doesn't do anyone any good to dance around it and pretend and be like, oh, they can get it from the context. We asexuals have been left with nothing but hopeful context as representation forever. Representation for asexuals in media is basically non-existent. People keep pointing me towards the same 3 books, for example, and it's like, oh, 3 books. Good, great. How about hundreds of books? So I highly encourage you, if you are writing an asexual character in a time where we have the language for it, please just put it straight on the page. If you're writing a character in, say, a fantasy book where they don't have the language for it and you don't want to, like, make up your own name for it, the closer the reader is to the character, the easier it's going to be for you to express their sexuality. One of the main things I tell people, if they're writing an asexual character who's a point of view character, we just don't think about it. Like, certainly some of us think about sex, but when we look at somebody, we just don't think about wanting to have sex with them. And in general, as we're going about our day-to-day lives, we don't think about it really much. Some of us may have a high libido, but we just don't. So if you are writing from an asexual character's point of view, it's pretty easy to just never have them think about that stuff. And if other people bring it up, it's pretty easy to have them go, oh, nah, no thank you. It's like if somebody wants you to have cake and you don't really like cake. They hand you a slice of cake, you say, oh, no thank you, I don't like cake. That simple. Asexuals love cake. That's a fact. All asexuals, we love cake. Facts. Things to avoid when you're writing an asexual character. Try really hard not to make them an alien or a robot or another race of beings that are all asexual. We have that already. I feel like I can speak for many asexuals when I say, I love robots and aliens, but can I have someone like me, please? Watch out for making your asexual character frigid and unfun. Asexuals are fun. We're fun people. We like to do enjoyable things. Sex is not the only enjoyable thing. Go ride a roller coaster, for crying out loud. It might be easy to slip in making that character very uppity or dowdy or like tisking all of the other characters. But in reality, the only difference between the asexual character and the other characters is that the asexual character, say it with me, does not experience sexual attraction. You really, did I have enough reallys? Want to avoid having your asexual character get over it, or recover from it, or just find the right one. That is harmful, so harmful. It is a stereotype that needs to die because it tells asexual people that there's something wrong with them that needs to be repaired, and they just have to find the right significant other to fix it. And there's nothing wrong with being asexual. You may want to write a demisexual character, and that's fine, but then you have to make it clear that that is a demisexual character. I know it's complicated, I know it seems difficult, but we're dedicated to this, aren't we? Right? You and me? We can do it. And of course, watch out for having that asexual character being shamed either by their fellow characters or sort of subtly by you, the author. You want to avoid writing situations where the asexual character is the odd one out, the uncool one, the one that nobody likes. Because again, that can subtly send the message that because they're asexual, they're not good to be around. Now, obviously, depending on what your story is, of course the asexual character can occasionally be the odd one out, but avoid overdoing it and watch out for subtle clues that you may accidentally be sending that the asexual character doesn't belong. So there you go, guys. That is Writing Asexuals 2.0. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me. You can ask me in the comments here, or if you'd rather, you can message me on Twitter or something if you want to keep it like private. If I see anybody shaming anyone in the comments, I will be deleting that. Rude comments about people's sexuality will not be tolerated on this channel. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. This channel is a dictatorship, and I'm the dick in charge. And of course, remember that while I have given you permission to ask me just about anything you want to about asexuality, don't assume that everybody who's asexual is going to want to answer all your questions. Ask them first if it's okay, and then if they get uncomfortable answering your questions, back the fuck off. Okay? Okay. If you liked what you saw here, there's a lot like it on this channel. I've already got several videos about asexuality, including what it was like for me to grow up as an asexual in a world that doesn't believe we exist. Which, by the way, is why it's so important to have asexual representation in your books. Because we do exist. Feel free to roam around this channel. There is a ton of content here waiting for you to binge. And I post brand spanking new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo. And if you want extra content not seen here on this channel, you can go over to my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get exclusive content. I'll see you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye! Well, hey everyone, it's shout-out time again. I'm here with this month's patrons, Lennox, Amanda, Thelia, Jenny, Kim, Lisa, Sabby Panda, Sam, and Sarah. Thank you all so much for supporting me. It means a lot.